U.S. Army UCPs, otherwise known as ACUs, otherwise known as the grandma pattern. This is the most hated piece of gear for my generation in the Army. So stick around and find out why we hate this so much. This is the U.S. Army ACU Grunt Proof. What's up guys, Randall here. This is Grunt Proof. Welcome to the Gear Dungeon. You're looking at about 18 years worth of Army issue stuff. I have it all spread out everywhere, but this is the chunk of it. Because you guys have loved the Army cold weather and gear video so much, and I've received so many questions about this stuff, I thought I would get a little bit deeper into it. So first we have to clear up some terminology. In general, soldiers wear the Army combat uniform. That can mean OCPs, it could have meant multicams back in the day. It also included this bull. Before we went to ACUs in this universal camo pattern, we were wearing BDUs, battle dress uniforms. And then once we went to first the Gulf War and then later Iraq, we went to desert camo, which was DCUs. So we had BDUs, DCUs. Once the Army went to this pattern, the term ACU, Army Combat Uniform, became synonymous with this pattern. As a matter of fact, when we got these issued in 2005, we had never even heard the term UCP. So we were given these and they were simply called ACUs. So that's why you'll see a lot of guys from my generation, the guys from the BDU era, we will call these ACUs and then we will call the Afghanistan uniform multicams and we will call these OCPs. Even though these could technically be called ACUs because it is an Army combat uniform. If you say the word ACU to a guy from my generation, he's automatically going to picture this crap. There's no way he's going to think about this. And since that's what I'm used to, I'm going to use ACU to refer to these. I might say UCP, I might not, but let's just jump right into it. Around late 2005, we got alerted for our next deployment to Iraq, and we also were told we were going to be getting new uniforms. That's when these ACUs came out. And you know, if you can imagine coming from a generation of this and DCUs, notice the combat patch is above the flag. I thought it was a joke. I'm not even kidding with you guys. We thought this was a joke, you know, because we're used to uniforms that make sense in multiple environments. And then we get this and it's like, okay, it's not woodland, it's not desert. What the hell is this going to blend into? That would remain the common theme for the next 2 decades. And anytime somebody wants to pick on the US Army, for very good reasons, they refer back to the ACUs. Although a lot of great improvements came out of this era, gear, cold weather gear, and all that stuff, but the actual pattern is absolute garbage. Nobody has ever been behind these. The civilian companies that helped field these, probably the contractors that made all the money off of this pattern, they would start to tell us the awesome benefits of this. As grunts who have been in the field, we're sitting there like, you start to realize pretty quickly that nobody actually field tested this stuff. The Army spent over $5 billion on this pattern alone, all the clothing, all the gear, and issuing it. I still can't believe that taxpayers paid for something like this. Either way, once we started using them and dealing with them more, it just got worse and worse. Because you can complain about how something looks all you want, but in the grunt world, we're usually more about function over fashion, which is kind of opposite how the rest of the Army works. They care about how you look. So we're like, okay, looks like garbage, we'll take it into the field and let's check it out. And our first field rotation with ACUs was an epic failure. I'm pretty sure our reports never made it up past our local units. So besides the pattern, let's get into why it's so crappy. So on the BDUs and DCUs, you had plenty of pockets and you had buttons, and buttons freaking work. These buttons were tough as hell. You could rip one off and you could fix it on your own. It was called fieldcraft, learning how to take care of your own uniform. We did, however, wish to have slanted pockets like they did in the Vietnam days and some kind of pocket up here. Instead of just improving our pocket system, we went to Velcro. I know a lot of guys will complain about Velcro and that it's not tactical, but look guys, if somebody is so close to you that they're gonna hear your Velcro and that's gonna give your position away, number one, they're too close to you, and number two, if they're so close to you, you shouldn't be screwing with your Velcro pockets in the first place. So it's not that the Velcro pocket is too loud, it's not that loud. The problem is Velcro fails. When you're talking about mud, rain, and snow in a field environment, just constant abuse, Velcro becomes useless. And I've seen the Velcro fail within a day of being in the field. Then we went to this stupid Velcro patch thing. If you even walk next to somebody else's uniform, your patch will get ripped off. It'll get stuck on their uniform. So you could bump into your buddy in the morning, and in the afternoon, you walk into an office somewhere and somebody's asking you why you got a patch on the side of your uniform, and it's because you stole your buddy's 4 hours before that. So we got our shoulder pockets, that was cool, but again, Velcro. This was one of my Garrison uniforms, and this is just floppy. So imagine rain, snow, and mud. I mean, it's just insane. It was cool that they added the IR reflectors. The DCUs, we actually had to sew glint tape onto our shoulders, and here's a picture. The absolute worst thing about this ACU top, I'm like, why do we have a zipper here? Buttons are fine. Buttons work perfect. There's a saying that's probably been around for hundreds of years, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, the Army tried to fix something that wasn't broken, and they broke it. They're decent. They're not just cheap Chinese zippers, but they break. They break very easily, and unlike buttons, once this zipper breaks, you're screwed. You're not repairing it. It's done. See? So just rip the zipper off that easily, and it's done. You can't fix this anymore. This zipper is trashed. After about a month in Ramadi, Iraq with these, this is how most guys walked around. It was either the zipper was crap, or because of your IBA, you had this part sitting right up here, right where the top of your IBA would sit. So that made that pretty uncomfortable. When most of us would put on our IBA to go outside the wire, we would leave it unzipped and we would just kind of close it, throw our IBA on, and that's how it went. So after about a month or two in that environment, dust, abuse, this Velcro was essentially useless. We only got 2 pairs of uniforms each in 2005. So U.S. Army infantry guys going to a very bad deployment in Ramadi, Iraq, and we have 2 sets of this crap. So what we did was we had a combat uniform, which you'd wear your IBA, and under your IBA, it essentially was like this. It was just open because the Velcro was useless, the zipper was destroyed and was useless. And then we would keep one for around the fob where all the pogue sergeant majors would hang out and bitch about our uniforms. That would be the one we would put on to go to the chow hall. You can tell that office people developed this uniform because they made the little pin holders right here. These pin holders, yeah, they're great for all the Garrison guys that just sit in an office all day. But for any kind of combat dude, this is terrible. You don't want a pin right here. If your uniform gets scrunched up at all, your pin's gonna fall out. Or when you're doing stuff, it's gonna just stab you and it's annoying. Most of us never put our pins in there anyway, unless we were in Garrison, which is what this uniform is perfect for, Garrison. It was kind of cool to have Velcro on the cuff. You could open it and you could close it very quickly. But once again, after about a month in the field or in a combat environment, that became useless and it wouldn't even stick on itself here anymore. So we were usually walking around Ramadi like this, just trashed uniforms, Velcro hanging off. A lot of guys would cut this off because it just got in the way. You would see us roll up our sleeves a lot more, which will give a sergeant major a heart attack. But our justification was, you guys signed off on garbage uniforms. We have to implement fieldcraft to be good soldiers and improvise, adapt, and overcome, right? Well, this is how we improvise. The freaking cuffs won't close anymore and they're flopping all over the place. There we go. But you can't be thinking logically in the Army. That'll get you into trouble. Just by rolling up my sleeves for this video, if you listen very closely, somewhere you'll hear a sergeant major losing his shit because somebody is rolling up their sleeves. You hear it? Another thing on the pockets, the Army did go to slanted pockets, but this is more of a Garrison thing because with a vest on, this is useless. However, it was very cool to have shoulder pockets. So on the pants, of course, useless Velcro. Whatever you would put in there would essentially fall out because it was left open because it wouldn't close anymore. And it would be flopping around, so they would just rip it off. So there was a lot of guys walking around with no cargo pocket on their uniform. And of course, the bored sergeant majors that never left the base and never actually had to deal with this crap and see how bad it was, they thought we were just like a bunch of Navy SEAL wannabes altering our uniforms. But I would find myself in front of a master sergeant, sergeant major all the time, explaining to them why my guys were so messed up and why I was so messed up. Because I'm like, no, the uniform has failed us. I do not have another one, Sergeant Major. At the end of the day, you have no other choice. Like, can I go outside the wire naked? No, you're making me wear this garbage. I gotta do what I gotta do. So we left buttons on the fly. Did the Army realize, you know what? We know that the zipper sucks and it's gonna rip off. We're gonna leave it on the jacket anyway because, you know, we're the Army. But we can't have guys walking around with their Franken beans hanging all over the place. So let's make sure their fly is strong. Because you know what? Just like the BDUs and DCUs, I never had problems with the fly because they were still buttoned up. And on that note, the ACUs and forward, you got a reinforced seat and crotch. We still ripped our crotches out, and since most of us were going commando, it was fun to go to the defect that way, but at least they held up a little bit longer. And again, buttons on the back pockets because that's the Army. They make no sense. So the BDU pants used to have a little cinching clip right about here. So you could just pull on that and it would tighten your pants just a little bit and your belt would sit right over it. And then the Army went to this strange drawstring. You would have about this much slack in your belt line just sagging down. So then you were just left with a string around your waist and your fly was just drooping down. Kind of a silly system. I understand what they were going for there, but it didn't work. So let's talk about a few good things, okay? The Army did come out with these insert elbow pads, knee and elbow pads. Most of us never wore the knee ones because they were like these giant, large, goofy ones. But the elbow pads that inserted into the ACU top was freaking awesome. It was loose enough and light enough to not bother you when it was on there, but it gave you just enough protection to where getting in and out of vehicles, running through buildings, hitting it on corners, even getting down into the prone to fire, it made all that so much better. So in Ramadi, I'm pretty sure I left my elbow pads in both uniforms the entire time. Even washing my stuff, I never even took it out because I always wanted them in there. The few times I did go into the prone in contact, it was awesome to have that there. Although usually you don't really want to lay down in Ramadi, Iraq. It's just a little too funky. Let's get into some gear real quick and then we're done. The large rucksack. It's giant. It's about a quarter more of volume than the Alice Ruck. But again, the Alice Ruck was perfect. A lot of the arguments people made for going to this Ruck never held up in the field. The best thing about the new Ruck is that it had some molly on there. So you have a lot more options to put bags and crap on the outside. But if you consider the average soldier and how they pack their bags, now you're just ending up with flashlights and Care Bears, all kinds of pogue shit on the outside of your Ruck. So everybody's walking around, you have no more standardized Rucks. Everybody looks like a Christmas tree walking around. The sustainment bags were a good idea. The separate compartment for a sleep system or to separate other pieces of gear, that was a good idea. Other than that, this Ruck sucked. And the main reason it sucked is because it is too damn big. If you are actually filling this rucksack and it's not mostly pillows, this thing is going to be too damn heavy. And guess what? That's exactly what Army leaders do. They'll plan an operation. If somebody says we're bringing a Ruck, whether that operation lasts a week or a day, they are going to have this thing 100% full. And that sucks because you're already carrying 60 pounds of battle gear, plus water on your back, plus your weapon, plus whatever extra crap they put in your hand. Now you're going to add a 50 to 100 pound rucksack, extra ammo, water, food, all kinds of other bullshit they make you bring. And it's just, it's unmanageable. Another one of the few good things about this Ruck is the frame and the fit. Everybody loves these load lifting straps. I never liked them. I was always fine with an Alice pack. Of course, that's personal preference. So that was a good addition. The actual shape of the padding, having thicker pads was a good idea because I still have the original Alice with the very light pads and you gotta be a tough badass to wear that, which is why I still wear mine. And then they went to a plastic frame. 12 to 15 pounds of the Alice Ruck is the frame alone, empty Ruck. You could also raise and lower this according to your torso height. The kidney pad and belt are a massive improvement. See, I just tucked mine in because I never liked these. Although the kidney pad and belt is not designed properly to do what it's supposed to do. A lot of people think this belt and kidney pad system is designed to take the weight off of your shoulders and put it onto your hips. That's actually bullshit. Last thing, a lot of fanboys of this ruck said it fits better when you're wearing an IBA or a plate carrier. Maybe that's true for those guys, but that was 100% false for me. With the Alice ruck, the kidney pad has a little frame on it, which pushes it off your back. So when I was wearing a plate carrier or an IBA, that gave me just enough room to wear my camelback on my IBA. Because if you think about it, if you're going somewhere with your ruck, chances are you're not fighting in it. If you take contact with that ruck on, you're going to drop the ruck. Then where's your water source? Well, it's in the ruck because you had to take it off. I was never able to comfortably wear this ruck with my camelback on the back. Maybe other guys could, I couldn't. So whenever we had to take off for a few days and had to bring extra gear, if we had the option, most of us would go back to the assault bag, which was perfect for a few days out, depending on where you were going and what you were doing. If you needed extra gear, we'd bring the medium ruck. The medium ruck is probably the best freaking carrying system the Army has actually implemented. It's an awesome piece of gear. I wish I could keep this. There are many issues with this ACU garbage. I can only talk about a handful of them unless you guys want to watch a 4-hour video or see 10 parts to a series of this. I'm not gonna do it. I wanna knock it all out in one video. If I miss some of the issues and you want to add, let us know down below, because I know there are thousands of other issues with this crap. So post all that stuff down below so everybody else can see just how bad these things are. Let's talk about gear real quick. Contrary to popular YouTube myths and beliefs, most combat units don't get to pick what they wear in combat. You don't just get to go buy a plate carrier. What I did as a CA dude in Afghanistan, we got to go buy and wear a lot of our own gear. So that's why we had plate carriers and stuff. But most line units don't get to do that. When I was a grunt, I wore what they gave us and we all looked the same and it sucked. So the IBA was the first plate carrier for the Army. It's a pretty damn good design. If you could get away with wearing it without the groin and the throat protector and this collar, it was actually a damn good piece of gear. Then around the ACU times, the Army went to this IOTV. I don't even know what that stands for because I never wore this. By the time we got these, we were going to Afghanistan. We were allowed to wear plate carriers. So I just left this back in Germany. I never even touched it. That's why it's so clean. This thing it's a giant heap of junk. You're basically walking around like EOD or a bomb disposal guy. It's just bulky, it's heavy, it's uncomfortable. If you want to know how man-dress, flip-flop wearing mountain guys defeated us all the time, it's because we were wearing garbage like this, trying to chase them up mountains, and they were in flip-flops and man-dresses, and they would just outrun us like crazy. The only tactical advantage we had over the Taliban was air support, fire superiority. If we had to go toe-to-toe with the Taliban just with small arms, in the mountains, we would get our asses kicked every fucking time. I guarantee it. Because you cannot go out like a freaking bomb disposal idiot with 30 dudes who ain't even in shape anymore at this point, carrying this garbage, trying to hunt bad guys in the mountain. It's stupid. So anyway, once I got word that I didn't have to wear it and I could pick my own plate carrier, that's what I did, because this was absolute garbage. All the combat dudes I actually worked with when I was over there, I felt so bad for those guys, and I just, yeah, sorry. The Army cold and wet weather gear, it's some of the toughest stuff you can use. Running around the woods in my property up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, haven't destroyed them yet. So the Army did a good job on making sure soldiers could be warm and dry, at least as much as possible. One downfall with the new wet weather gear though, is it is loud. So guys would complain about the Velcro and zippers on the ACUs, the wet weather gear. Imagine 30 guys running around the forest with this. It's gonna sound like a bunch of guys running around with trash bags. There are ways to make cold weather gear quiet. The original Army cold weather gear was almost silent and it worked. Yes, it was very hot, but you know what? That means it could have doubled as a hard shell and you didn't have to create new hard shells. But then Gore-Tex wouldn't have got their DOD contract, and we know how that stuff goes. So let's not end this on a negative note. Let's talk about some of the benefits of the ACU and further improvements on those systems. The best thing that came out of the ACU era and moving forward, is the research and development in overall gear. So choices and types of gear soldiers could get issued, what they could wear, combinations, functionality, modularity, and most especially the new cold weather system, the extended cold weather clothing system, or ECWCS. I guess some guys called it EQUIX. We just called it snivel or boo-boo gear. The snivel gear that came out of the ACU version, the entire level 7 stuff, it's amazing. So if you haven't seen my video going through that, go check that out, because I do a complete overview of all 7 levels, and I go into a little bit on how guys actually wore the stuff. A lot of guys, even older soldiers, would comment and say, who wears all that stuff? Well, you don't. All 7 layers are not designed to wear at once. The whole benefit to the ECWCS is choice. Soldiers can now figure out which levels and which combinations work the best for them, and then take that gear to the field and pack the rest away and leave it clean and turn it in later. And that's what I did. I would usually carry a max of 3 different levels together. That would support me for all kinds of cold weather environments or wet weather conditions, and I would be good to go. A lot of that system I never even touched. I never even pulled it out of the bags. But either way, the ECWCS is an excellent system. It's one of the few good things that came out of that era. Given all the new types of gear and all the new cold weather gear, soldiers have endless options these days. And yes, we are actually spoiled these days. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me. I know this was long, but I just wanted to get as much of it out as possible. To all my brothers and sisters in arms who dealt with this crap, let me know down below. Because of y'all's questions, I'm gonna put up a lot more videos like this. So stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that bell for notifications every time I put a new video out. And until the next video, I will see you guys in the outdoors. Prepared lives matter. Ciao.